What is up, YouTube? Welcome to my channel. My name is Eric, and my YouTube channel is all about mental health, mental illness, suicide awareness, sobriety, just making sure that nobody goes through it alone. I have a special guest and actually sharing a podcast that I did that's currently up on Spotify and Anchor with a member of our mental health community named Emily, who has just actually went through a sexual assault and violence relationship with her husband that they're now separated. She wanted to share her story, so I am excited to be able to do this. If you haven't clicked the like and subscribe button, click the like and subscribe button. Love to have you along for the journey. What's up, YouTube? This isn't my typical video. This is actually a podcast share from a podcast that I just did. It's part one with Emily on sharing about a abuse survivor when it comes to sexual abuse, domestic abuse, physical abuse. She's actually a member of our mental health community. Her name is Emily, and she wanted to be able to share her story. So I was able to sit down and be able to talk with her. I'm sharing it in three parts. This is the first part of it. Reason I wanted to do it in three parts, because maybe somebody can relate to each different part, or maybe they're in each different part of it, and to know that it's okay to reach out for help, to get help, and that they're not alone. If you haven't clicked the like and subscribe button, click the like and subscribe button. Love to have you along for the journey. Welcome back to Driven Industry Podcast. I have not done one of these in a while, and so I am excited to be bringing back podcasts to you. If you are new, make sure that you subscribe, and make sure you also check us out on all the other different social medias. We are on YouTube under Driven Industries, along with our mental health Discord Warriors of the Day, our website, areyoudriven.com, along with being on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all of that. If you type in DR1VN, you will find us. This podcast here, it's a special way to break back into it. I have a special guest. Her name is Emily, and Emily is actually part of our mental health community. Emily went through a lot of abuse with her soon-to-be ex-husband. They are separated currently, and the abuse stemmed from physical violence to sexual violence. And she wanted to share her story, and it's a very powerful story, to help bring awareness to anybody out there struggling. So it's going to come in a three-part series. This is the first of three parts, and you know what? While we're at it, make sure you click the subscribe button to our podcast. We do a podcast now coming out weekly, and let's get to it. And I want to just start off of, how your relationship with your soon-to-be ex-husband, how did the whole thing start?
Well, we met through a mutual friend about 7 years ago. I was 18, just out of high school, so it wasn't really like super, experienced with any type of relationship.
Were you close with your family at all during this time?
I was close with my grandma, but my parents I didn't really have a huge relationship with. I moved out when I was 16, so I was on my own for a while before that.
Okay.
So I started hanging out with him. He has two kids with his previous marriage, and so I moved in with them probably 2 or 3 months after we started talking.
Why did you end up moving in with him? Was it his idea, your idea, both of your ideas?
I mean, looking at it now, it was mostly his. I mean, it sounded good to me at the time.
Were you living on your own at the time, or were you living with family?
I actually had my own place, but my lease was up.
Oh, okay.
So it was sort of like, are we going to take this seriously, or am I signing another year's lease type of thing?
So you guys decided to take this seriously together.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was the beginning of the relationship? So you are freshly 18, you're done with high school, you found this guy that you met through a friend. I'm assuming, are you still friends with that person today?
No.
Okay. So you met him through this mutual friend, and you now move in together. He has 2 kids, you have no kids.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what ends up happening?
Well, we are good relationship-wise for a while. I, looking at it now, realized that I took on majority of, I guess, the mom role at 18, which was difficult, but it ended up being on me, like the household, the kids, the transporting back and forth to school, getting up, meals, type of things like that.
Did you have any problem doing that? Did you have any problem just stepping in and all of a sudden being an instant mom?
I did not have an issue with that. Surprisingly, no. I
Okay.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
It gave me something to do.
it makes sense. Okay. So you're an instant mom. You're taking on the mom roles, and you're living with him. So the relationship in the beginning, I mean, was it like a Cinderella movie, or I mean, how was the relationship in the beginning?
I mean, we had our disagreements and our arguments, but we were able to talk them out.
How would you
Um,
how would you talk him out?
um, I mean, it was just depends on what it was. Like the small stuff, we would just, like, hey, we're sort of being ridiculous here, type of thing. But like, if we were to like yell at each other, like we were able to sort of just like work it out, either finish the argument or take a break and come back, type of thing.
Okay. So you were pretty much adults, and hey, we have a disagreement. Let's talk about it, share about it, find a solution, resolution, move on. Life is great.
Right.
Okay. So, well, I know the end of the story. So apparently, at some point, there started being a breakdown or something of some sort in that.
Mhm.
What happened? What started happening?
So he actually got diagnosed with bipolar and started drinking.
Now, did he got diagnosed with bipolar? Did he went to a doctor and got diagnosed? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Was he on any kind of meds for the bipolar?
He was and stopped taking them.
Did he discuss it with you at all when he decided he was going to stop taking his meds, or did he just kind of quit on his own?
He quit on his own. I didn't actually know that he was not taking them.
Did you ever find out later on that he had stopped?
Yes.
Okay. So he was diagnosed, he was on meds. Was he working at the time?
He was.
What was he doing?
Truck driving?
Okay. And don't get me wrong, this isn't like a beat up on guys session with you. I want to really dig in for anybody out there to kind of see some of the warning signs maybe that they're already seeing if they're in an abusive relationship, because I think sometimes we turn a blind eye to it.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
and so he was a truck driver. Were you working at the time, or were you just kind of like the stay at home mom?
I was working, but with his schedule, we couldn't do both with the kids, so I ended up quitting and I was at home.
Okay. So he was a truck driver. So how long did that all go on for?
He did truck driving for 2 years.
Okay. And then what happened?
Then he just started drinking more, couldn't keep himself, he couldn't drive with the amount that he was drinking.
Did that like I'm a recovering alcoholic. I used to drink like 3/5 of vodka a day. Um,
Mhm.
I would start really early in the morning until I passed out. When he started drinking, I mean, did you notice like a steady increase in his drinking, or was it just all of a sudden you notice that your husband was drunk, or what was happening?
No, I mean, I knew it was, I noticed the steady increase, but I wasn't saying anything about it or doing anything about it either.
Okay, so you just kind of turned a blind eye to it and figured, oh, okay, he's having a bad day, let him drink.
Yeah, and then it got to the point where it was just sort of past stopping.
Okay, did he ever make any attempts to quit drinking? Because you said that he got off his medication, so I'm assuming he tried to probably self-medicate like I did. And again, this is assumption. I'm not trying to diagnose him, but it sounds like he was like I was. I self-medicated myself with
Right, which is
alcohol.
that's exactly what he was doing.
Okay, and yet alcohol is a depressant, so I'm sure that didn't have any positive effects.
No,
Okay, so your relationship now has went to the point now. You said he's not working. So how did you guys pay the bills?
I worked.
Okay, what were you doing for a living?
A certified nursing assistant at the time.
Oh, you're a CNA?
No, I was, yes.
Oh, okay, cool. So you all of a sudden got into the medical field, and now I'm assuming you're supporting him and the two kids, which
Hmm.
props to you on that. That's a lot of work. Did he pick up then kind of the mom duties, or what was going on?
No, not really. So I was working third shift, so that way I was there when the kids were home, could take them to school, do whatever like needed to be done because he was drinking so much that he couldn't do it.
Now, did the drinking cause any problems in your relationship? I mean, when it started getting out of control like this?
He was like verbally abusive at first. We were always fighting. Um,
What would you characterize as verbal abuse? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what verbal abuse is or try to discount verbal abuse for what it is.
he was really like degrading at first. So like if I didn't do the dishes right when he wanted me to do them, I was stupid. I was incompetent. I couldn't like I wasn't mom. Like I was a horrible girlfriend, fiance, whatever we were at the time. Um, and then it just escalated into getting in my face, screaming at the top of his lungs, and then it just went from there.
So you were engaged at the time and you weren't married?
Correct.
Okay, so you are already being verbally abused and you're engaged and you end up getting married.
Yep.
Let me ask you why.
Because I thought it was my fault that I was the one that was causing the issues, and it was something that I had to fix.
Okay, did you look at the marriage at all of being like a way of, hey, I can fix it by, if we're married, I can be a better wife. Did any of that type of thought go through your head?
All the time.
Okay. I was just curious because I know that a lot of people will lean on the relationship and the progress of their relationship to like fix a problem instead of addressing it. It's just something I've experienced with a lot of different people out there. So I was kind of curious to see your input. So now you're married and he's not working, you're working, and it's verbally abusive. Did it ever get physically abusive?
Yes.
So explain, were you married when it got physically abusive or were you engaged when it got verbal or physically abusive?
We were engaged, um,
Oh wow.
and
So
had everything planned out for the wedding.
okay, so and I know that in most cases, from what I've talked with other individuals, especially abuse survivors, the first time it gets physically abusive is pretty traumatic, and it's one of those that you don't ever forget. Do you mind sharing that with us?
Yeah. Um, so we were at camp. I don't remember. We were out for the day with the kids doing something. And we got back. I think we had a birthday party or something for one of the kids. We got back, and both of the kids had a huge meltdown.
Were they just kind of like burn out from the day, like exhausted?
Exhausted.
Okay.
And neither of them wanted to lay down for a nap. And I could just see that he was getting frustrated. So I was like, okay, well, that's fine. Like, why don't you go lay down? Like, I'll take care of them. Like, it's fine. So instead, he left. Went, I don't know, wherever with his friends.
Okay, so you stayed home with the kids. He left. Was he already drunk at the time?
He was drinking, but not drunk.
Okay.
So he came back a couple hours later. The kids still had not slept. We were watching a movie on the couch. That's the only way I could get them to not scream. And he came home really drunk.
Okay.
So finally got the kids to bed. He had been, like yelling at me all day in front of the kids and everything after he got back. So I got the kids in bed and I sat down for a minute and he got really mad that I wasn't just going and starting to clean.
Oh wow. Okay. So he was very demanding then of you and your relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he was mad that I hadn't switched laundry over. I believe because there was like 3 or 4 dishes in the sink. It wasn't like it was trashed or anything. It was just like we live there type of stuff. And so I got up and pretty much told him at that point, like I don't appreciate like this. I was sitting with the kids, spending time with the kids, and then he smacked me.
Were you kind of taken back and like shocked that he had actually hit you?
Yeah, I didn't know what to do. I sort of just stood there.
Okay, what was your instant reaction as soon as it happened? I mean, did you address what happened, or what was your next, like, what did you end up doing?
Honestly, nothing. I didn't know what to do.
Did you ever bring it up to him like the next day about him hitting you?
I didn't have to. He apologized.
Okay, so he apologized the next day, said it was probably out of characteristic for him.
Yep.
So what we see on the movies and in the TV shows is pretty damn true, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, what was the feelings that were going through you? Okay, so you kind of froze. Was a oh shit moment like this just happened?
Yeah.
How did the rest of that night go?
Well, he eventually passed out um, on the couch. I sat in the bedroom with the door locked the rest of the night. And just didn't sleep, didn't know what to do. I was trying to figure out what I did wrong, like what I could have done to prevent it, like why all of a sudden he did this. I mean, looking at it now, there were so many warning things beforehand. But, when you're in the situation, you don't think about that.
Right, you just kind of take the blame on yourself and figure that it was probably something that you did, and you need to change something, or he needs help in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I actually sat and made a list of everything that I was going to do the next day so that he would not be mad at me.
oh wow. All right, so the next day he ends up apologizing to you.
Hmm.
Then how long was it until this happened again?
Maybe a week or two.
Really? So it actually escalated kind of that quick where
It did. And I know it escalated pretty quickly.
so he apologizes the next day, but then in about a week he ends up raising a hand to you again.
Yep.
And what ended up happening the second time that this happened?
I mean, I'm I'm not a very confrontational person, anyways. So I didn't do anything about it. Which I mean, looking at it now, I'm not super happy about, and not happy with myself that I didn't do anything about it. But pretty much the same thing. I mean, I just sort of he yelled at me, hit me, yelled at me some more, and we sort of went our own ways.
Okay, I mean, if you had like looking back, if you met somebody in your shoes that this has happened to now twice, I mean, what advice would you give them?
Get out while you can.
Okay.
I mean, majority of the time, if someone puts their hands on you, they're going to continue to do it no matter what they say.
And you know that from experience now.
Yeah.
So you end up getting married. I mean, how long was your relationship abusive then for, I mean, as a married couple?
As 2 years married.
Really? And so, I mean, how often was there physical violence involved in your marriage?
I mean, it got to the point where it was every day.
Really?
Hmm.
And I mean, were you covering up bruises, or what were you doing so that maybe coworkers, people around you, didn't realize what was happening?
Well, my job, thankfully, we wear pants and I can wear a jacket. Um, I
So
mean,
so he never would he never really hit you in the face or left bruises on your face. It was on your body and legs.
yeah.
Was it just physical abuse that he would do, or anything else?
It was physical majority of the time. Maybe the last like 2 or 3 months, it was more sexual.
Okay. So it got worse and worse as time went on.
Yeah.
And was it anything that you ever talked to anybody about, or shared with anybody of like, hey, this is what's going on in my life right now? Or did you keep it to yourself?
I did not tell anybody about it until probably, I mean, until I actually started talking with you.
Wow. And I remember even when I first met you, and we first started talking, and we were talking through, we actually met through TikTok. And I mean, you use probably, I'm assuming, social media and stuff as an escape, probably from reality a little bit. I'm guessing.
Hmm.
I mean, was it a coping mechanism, or what did you use it for?
It was definitely coping and a distraction because I would get in my head and start thinking about like what I was doing wrong. So if I kept my mind busy, then I wouldn't have to worry about it.
Did you ever switch it around instead of saying, "What am I doing wrong?" Like my husband probably shouldn't be hitting me.
Honestly, no, not until I started like talking with other people that I thought like that.
So it really, like, actually having the power of support helped you realize that holy shit, there's like a big problem.
Yeah.
Okay. And I want to do this in three parts, and I think just even the first part is important because I don't think a lot of people realize how quickly, just like even with addiction and stuff, how quickly stuff takes and progresses. It's not like a slow progression. It's usually a very fast progression. And especially in a case like this, it's one of those that I'm sure hindsight, you're like looking at the girl that you saw back then, going, "Man, why didn't you wake up then?"
Yeah, for sure.
But you know what? It's made you into a hell of a strong woman, and I'm also really really thankful that you're willing to share this story, and to share your experiences because I know that it will probably help somebody out there because you're not the only one that internalizes it. Of you don't look at the other person as in, hey, you don't do this. You look in and say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do to fix it? Because I also know men that are abused by their wives too, because abuse does go both ways, and it's typically the same thing that you're looking at. What can I do to fix it instead of addressing, hey, there's a serious issue here.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it, Emily. This is just the first part of three parts we're going to do together. I mean, on the next part, I want to go more into detail on the trauma and then on the aftermath of what you were able to do because I think your story is pretty damn amazing that you were able to go through so much and pick yourself up and actually make it through this. And, quite frankly, I think you're doing pretty damn well right now. I'm really, like, you are a definition of strength.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so what we'll end up doing is doing this again here, and let's go into detail, of what ended up happening that got to the point because you are currently separated from your husband now. You're going through a divorce. I know that there was cops involved and hospitals, and I think the story will really help other people. I mean, any last words before we end this segment of to anybody out there who is being abused? If you could give them three tips, what would you tell them to do right now if they're in an abusive situation listening to this going, holy shit, this is similar to what I've been through so far?
Most important is know that it's not your fault. No matter what you are being told, it is not your fault, and you are not responsible for what your significant other's actions are. And then if there's a way to reach out to anybody to ask for help, it doesn't matter who it is. It could be someone on the street, some stranger. Do it. Get out if you can now, safely.
It's pretty amazing what support from strangers that you've never met can do. For sharing that with us. It's a very strong story that she has, and I'm excited to bring you the other two parts. I wanted to do this in a three-part series because it is a very difficult story for her to be able to share and to be able to tell, and wanted for anybody who's going through the different stages of it to know that they're not alone. So if you are going through a stage right now where there is abuse involved, whether it's physical or sexual abuse, even if you are married, that is considered assault, and it is also considered rape. One of the greatest resources out there if you are going through it is RAINN, RAINN.org. Again, that's RAINN.org, RAINN.org. So make sure you check it out and know this, that you are not alone, no matter what it is that you're going through right now in life, that you are not alone, that you do matter, that you are special, that you're amazing. You've made it through 100% of your worst days and that you can make it through to today and even on to the next day. Looking forward to the next podcast coming up. If you haven't clicked the subscribe button to our podcast, make sure that you do. Also, make sure you check us out on all the different social medias, our website at areyoudriven.com. We are on YouTube as Driven Industries. Also, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, If you type in DR1VN, you will see us. It's Driven Industries, and it's all about people helping people with mental health, mental illness, suicide awareness, making sure that nobody goes through life alone, and reminding you that you do matter and that together we can do this.